Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with part 2 of Get Better at Yu-Gi-Oh! Goal-Oriented Dueling. So, as promised last time, we are going to be building a deck core for an Xyz-centered strategy today, but first we need to be able to define the kinds of decks we'll be playing against, because much like our deck needs to have some goals to aim for, we need to realize what types of goals we are going to be playing against so that we can best combat those strategies. So let's just name a few decks. We're probably going to play against Burning Abyss or PK Fire, so some grave-oriented strategies. Decks like Monarchs that are going to lock us out of plays, and probably decks like Cosmo that are more control-oriented and have the ability to pick apart at our strategies. So let's start off by naming a few Xyz monsters, since that's the theme we've chosen, that have the ability to actually win us the game. First, we're going to start off with Trapeze Magician Performage. Trapeze Magician is great because this guy lets another one of your monsters attack twice in the same battle phase, and that's really key because that can help us push for a lot of damage at once. Remember, we need to do 8,000 battle damage with this deck, so being able to attack multiple times is a good thing. Next, we want to play something like Rafflesia. As an example, this you can think of as, I want to be able to push for damage, and I want to be able to stop my opponent from doing the same to me. I don't want to take whatever they have to throw at me right in the face. So Rafflesia is going to be the defensive counterpart to our offensive counterpart. And because it's in the extra deck, we have an advantage of not having to draw into it, which helps with the consistency of the deck. You don't have to draw clunky trap cards that don't necessarily help. Next, we are going to be playing the Abyss Dweller. This is a mainstay for stopping graveyard-oriented decks. It's like a walking macrocosmos, and it does have that bonus effect if we can use a water monster as Xyz material, boosting its attack to 22, which would make it a sizable beater as well, so we'll keep that in mind as we go forward. And last but not least, if we can't prevent the threats the opponent might throw at us with these two Xyz monsters, we'll just have to use Castellan cards like that to get rid of problems that the opponent has thrown at us. So these kind of show 4 different categories: offense and defense, prevention, and removal of the opponent's threats. So those aren't, of course, the only Xyz monsters we're going to play. We have access to 15 cards in our extra deck, but that's kind of the framework that we're going to start with. And now that we have a basic goal in mind, we can start fleshing together the main deck with key cards that will allow us to reach these monsters. Fortunately, Xyz summoning is pretty simple. You just need 2 monsters of the same rank, and we chose rank 4 toolbox as our theme today. So we just need a bunch of good level 4 monsters. First off, I want to play 3 copies of Performage Trick Clown and 3 copies of Performage Hat Tricker. So the way these cards work is, anytime Trick Clown hits the grave, once per turn you can bring it back for 1,000 life points at 0 attack and defense. So that helps us put one of our spellcasters towards the Trapeze Magician for our damage component. And it has an extra resilience that allows us to string together multiple Xyz plays, because if we were to maybe detach for Castell to spin away an opponent's problem, we get a Trick Clown so that the Castell isn't the thing that we end up having to use as our end goal for that turn. We can bring out another monster, push for more damage, or whatever the situation calls for. Hat Tricker is interesting in that it's a spellcaster that lets it summon itself if there are at least 2 monsters on the board. And the reason that's important is, with 2 spellcasters that can easily hit the board now, we can actually summon that Trapeze Magician, and of course we can go for any of the generic Xyz monsters as well. Then, to make sure that we can actually get our Xyz summons, since we only get 1 normal summon a turn, I'm going to be playing a special summon monster called Gigabyte. This guy has a couple effects. First is, if you have a spellcaster on board, you can just drop him straight from your hand, which is great because now you can just go for a rank 4 play. Since Gigabyte's a water, that also gives us a lot of ability to use Abyss Dweller's powered up attack to have 2200 attack, which makes it a very potent attacker as well. And then if he happens to die because the opponent hits it with a trap card or kills it in battle or whatever, after interfering with your plays, you can just bring out another monster with the same attack and defense as him that's not Gigabyte from the deck. So something to just keep in mind if we want to explore into the other Charmer, familiar possessed monsters there. But for right now, we'll start with the Gigabyte because it will allow us to extend our spellcaster normal summons into big Xyz plays. This also allows us to expand our extra deck with King of the Feral Imps, which allows us as an ignition effect to fetch 1 reptile monster from your deck. So you can actually just use a Gigabyte with one of these, Maybe you use it with Trick Clown. So normal Trick Clown, special Gigabyte, go for King, detach the Trick Clown, bring back Trick Clown, and fetch another Gigabyte. Since Gigabyte's only restriction is you can only control one of these at a time, you can easily fetch another copy of this, summon it because you brought the Trick Clown back, and go for a second Xyz monster like Rafflesia or a Dweller next to it for free. So this card will get extra mileage out of our card. So we start with a 5-card hand. Trick Clown essentially serves as 2 cards because we get it back, and then the King will increase our cards count up even further by 1 for every turn that he stays alive. So great card that we are going to add to our arsenal here. Helps put extra damage on the board because it's essentially a free monster, but it also helps us go for our problem-solving toolbox as well. Going along with the theme of free cards, we're playing 3-star drawing. This card lets you draw whenever you Xyz with it, so just like Trick Clown, you get an extra resource. It may not be straight to the field, but because she's also a spellcaster, you can just go and drop Gigabyte or Hat Tricker anyway to help go for that Xyz summon and make sure you get that draw. And once you draw a generic draw, you may be able to play something like, say, Twin Twisters to clear out opponent's defenses so you can make a push, or any other utility card. Just drawing cards in general is good because it gives you more options, and more options means you can more easily outplay the opponent. So we will be playing 3-star drawing. Then to help kind of round all this out, we will be playing 3 copies of Kage. This is a reptile, so we can also search it with King of the Feral Imps, but in addition to that, it can be special summoned anytime you normal summon a level 4 monster, so any of these 12 so far. So this gets extra mileage out of the star drawing because when you normal star drawing, you normally don't have another monster you can bring out, but between Gigabytes, Hat Triggers, and Kageto, you can easily get that second monster to make sure you draw with star drawing every single time. And this, of course, still works great with Trick Clown, it works with Hat Tricker, pretty much works with everything except another copy of itself. So far we have 15 monsters. I just want to round out this list with a playset of Jurigato. So Jurigato is a tricky, fun little pet card of mine. Basically says you can special summon this card during either player's battle step, so when a monster would be able to declare an attack. Reveal it from your hand, special summon it, gain 1,000 life, so that helps you live because now you introduce a monster in the battle phase that can protect your life, and you just gained life as well. So it's a defensive aspect there. But you can also tribute him to power up one of your monsters by 1,000 attack points for an entire turn cycle. So when you have Trapeze Magician attacking directly for 2,500, you need to be able to do at least 5,500 points of damage to the opponent to reach 8,000. That means if you're able to do half of that, a little over, it's 2,750 attack points, attacking twice, you would be able to win the game outright. This would normally mean we have to put together some monsters for a really weird Xyz monster, like a Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon that gets a power boost by successfully targeting a monster, or otherwise bringing out a third monster and going for something like Evil Swarm Ouroboros to hit the 2,750. But instead, we can have Jurigato attack for 1,700, which lowers the cap or just clears a monster out so that our other guys can attack, and then have any monster with 1,750 or more attack, which is pretty much anything in the extra deck. Remember, Abyss Dweller often comes out with a Gigabyte, and we'll be able to make sure that it hits somewhere in a healthy range around 3,000. Combine 3,000 attacks with the Trapeze Magician, and all of a sudden you have game on a blank field. So Jurigato is in here basically to round out this core. It allows us to go and make big pushes for game, which is what we want, but because he special summons itself, we can defend ourselves going along with the Rafflesia so we don't die, and we can also go and use him to fuel Xyz summons by bringing him to the board and then making a problem-solving play like Castel in main phase 2. So that's pretty much it for today. This is the kind of thought process I go through whenever I put together a deck in order to first develop the core so that it reaches the goal that we have set. Tune in tomorrow where we will discuss how to flesh out the core, because unfortunately a deck is going to have at least a minimum of 40 cards, and if you only have the 18 card core we have here, you don't have enough to make that 40 card core, and we don't want to necessarily sacrifice consistency just by filling it up with fluff. So we'll discuss how we can enhance our overall goal achievement rate or consistency, and we can also fill in tech cards that can address the opponent's strategies and help hinder them with the main deck as well. So thanks guys, this is JDGaming, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your feedback down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.